Welcome to the Escape into Board Games podcast.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
And this is our escape from the real world where we talk about board games. Welcome to the All Ages Board Game Party.
So please join us for the Escape into Board Games podcast.
It's family time, and the in-laws are over.
Cousin Sarah is asking to play a game, and her little sister is keen as well.
But Aunt Petunia is set on sipping her wine and gossiping.
And Uncle Vernon is busy in the kitchen and won't have time for rules right now.
If you don't act quickly, before you know it, the football game will be on TV and everyone will be staring at their screens.
With the help of the games we're talking about in this episode, you can grab their attention and start an activity that will include everyone.
All aboard the All Ages Board Game Party. So Matt,
yes,
you're at the family gathering. Dinner is being cooked.
Yeah.
The teenagers are looking at their cell phones. Some of them want to play a game because you're the board game guy.
Right.
And some of them, I would say, are dreading the fact that Matt is going to pull out a board game. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah, you've got it. That's pretty much it. It's really hard to please everybody in a situation like that.
Like herding a bunch of cats sometimes.
That's it, exactly. That's one of my favorite expressions.
Everyone come to the table. Okay, everyone sit still while I explain the rules. I swear the rule explanation will only take 5 minutes. Sometimes that's a big challenge, right?
You're making me sweat just talking about it. Yeah, rules? No, rules. Can we just learn as we go?
Yeah, exactly.
So the games that we're going to present today try to mitigate a lot of those problems where they can be taught as we're playing them. And players can come and go quite often and leave the table and come back 5 minutes later and won't disrupt the game for the rest of the players at the table.
Yeah, no, that's an important factor because lots of times at these kinds of gatherings, I've got to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go mix drinks. Who wants chips? Who wants this?
Yeah.
I've got to go baste the turkey. I've got to do this or that. And
exactly.
It's like, okay, well, if we wait for you, this 25-minute game is going to take 3 hours.
Exactly.
These games, generally speaking, it doesn't really matter that much.
They're more forgiving to that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
Codenames. Codenames is a limited communication, team-based deduction word game for 2 to 8 players, ages 14 and up, that plays in about 20 minutes. Codenames was designed by Vlad Chvatil and published by Czech Games Edition in 2015. The red agents and the blue agents are scattered in the field. Each team has a spy master who will try to communicate the identities of their team's agents through the use of clever code names.
And these are words, like the agents are represented by cards that have words on them.
And the theme is paper thin.
Sure, yeah.
There's an agents and spies is pasted on.
Yeah.
This is a word association game.
Yeah.
The group is divided into 2 teams, the red team and the blue team. Each team is assigned a spy master. There are 25 word cards spread out on the table in a 5x5 grid. Each word card contains a single word, like swing, file, Loch Ness, cricket, or glass. A third of these cards belong to the red team, secretly, a third belong to the blue team, secretly, and a third are innocent bystanders. One card is the assassin. On your turn, your team's spy master can give only single word clues, but they will try to pick a single word that will point to more than one card on the table. So that might look like
Animal 2,
which might direct the team towards cricket and Loch Ness.
Bat 2
could direct players to swing and cricket.
Pitcher 3,
which could be hinting at swing, cricket, and glass.
Right.
Because a pitcher is made out of glass, but there's a pitcher in cricket and you swing at a ball, right? So
yeah,
the word pitcher can have all these multiple meanings. And And when this is all happening, when the spy master gives this clue, the team immediately erupts into activity, trying to decipher what we could be talking about, right?
Yeah.
Well, what about this word? Does this relate to what they just said? How does this word relate?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, the other team is also thinking and talking about what the word could be. Because if the word is going to be a red word, well, it's not going to be a blue word. And it could benefit the blue team to know which words aren't theirs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they can do this heckling thing where they talk about how, remember that famous picture, Loch Ness, from...
Right.
Right? And they could just throw ridiculous ideas out there.
Right. And do things to throw off the other team, which can make it even sort of this meta game that's fun to play. There's a lot of different ways to play Codenames because you can just play it straight up as a word association game and play it like it's, this championship tournament, or you can, depending on the group that you're playing, or you make it really mean and cutthroat and they have the two teams be, distracting each other and throwing each other off with, little jibs and jabs of that clue can't make sense. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's my favorite part of this game.
Yeah. And the other part that you have to always watch is if you're the code master who's giving the clues, you have to watch that if you're giving the clue picture 3 for the cards swing, cricket, and glass, you have to make sure that the other team doesn't have a card like ball or glove on theirs, because all of a sudden your team is going to go, a pitcher has a glove.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I think we should pick that card. And all of a sudden you've given the other team one of their clues.
That's right. If a team guesses incorrectly, then their turn is over. But whatever card that they've touched will get identified. It's either red team, blue team, or innocent bystander.
Yeah.
Or it could be the assassin. And if any player touches the assassin card, the game is immediately over and the other team wins.
Exactly.
If the clue is bat 2, then the teammates can only guess up to 3 different words.
Right.
This will allow them to make guesses on clues that they had missed in a previous turn.
So if in the previous turn I had said glove for pitcher as my first word, that ends our turn, but now we can guess 2 words for bat, and we still have 3 words for pitcher that, there may be some overlap.
Yeah.
But so we can add an extra word in.
We can touch one more card and try to flip those over.
One extra guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can also say 0 words. Like you can give your team time to catch up to clues that you've given them in the past. And hopefully your team is talking out loud about their plans so that you can sort of figure out, okay, they know this card, they know that card. Oh, yeah. I didn't think of that. Now they're really looking at that assassin card. I've got to give them a clue that makes it go away.
Yes. They keep saying glove. Why do they think it's glove? I said pitcher. Yeah. Obviously, I meant cricket and bat. Why are they saying glove? So then you could say mitt, 0. And when he said mitt, I guess it's not glove. I guess we can, to steer them away from the assassin card, you can say, a hint on that one and 0. And when you do give them 0, then your teammates have unlimited guesses. They can continue guessing until they're comfortable that they've caught up. Just a neat little catch-up mechanism.
Yeah. So it's no secret. I think Codenames is the game that should be in every gamer's collection.
Yeah.
I think it is truly, truly, truly a modern classic.
Yeah.
I think that if you are starting a board game collection, you need to have Codenames in there. I think that it is super simple and easy for anyone to get, even for the people that can't sit for rules. And I don't play games because I don't like listening to rules explanations.
Yeah.
They can watch the first couple questions
and pick it up,
and then all of a sudden join the team because it looks exciting and it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's simple. And like we talked about, they can go mix drinks,
take care of the baby,
and then bring everyone some snacks,
walk the dog,
and come back.
The game will still be here.
Yeah, and it hasn't affected the game.
We need a spy master that doesn't get up and leave. They have to stay put. And we need, at least one other player on that team to sort of stick around. And you don't need a table, really. I've played this on a coffee table, and people just sort of mill around.
Yeah.
A very reluctant group standing around not wanting to play the game at all. But then you get your core 4 people hammering out a few questions, and eventually everybody comes around to participate.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a hot seat feel when it comes to the spy master.
Yeah.
If you're the spy master and you're in charge of giving these clues, it can be a bit stressful.
Stress. Yeah, for sure.
And there can be long pauses as the clue master tries to come up with their clues.
Yeah.
And during this time, the game kind of breaks down and people start chatting and talking about different things and going to get drinks and stuff. And that could be 4 or 5 minutes of not playing the game.
Yeah.
Which in a way kind of works for this environment because people want that downtime to get those conversations in and have a few laughs and talk about something else other than the game. And then the game will come back once the spy master has come up with their clue. And then everybody's immediately back in. Oh, there's something for me to do. Oh, okay. What is it? Oh, I got to solve this puzzle. Hold on.
Yeah.
And so as a team member, it's a very light game where you can just kind of, tune in and play as it goes. The spy master has a bit more responsibility in keeping the game going. I found one trick was to write down on my phone all the words that pertain to me and all the words that pertained to my opponent's team. So I could look at my phone instead of looking at the table.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of hard to 3D map out, oh, wait, where's my words over here? And then because where your words are is determined by a card, and the card, you have to kind of hold the card up and say, okay, I've got the corner one and the one 2 away from the corner and the one that's 1 down from that edge. Okay. And you can make mistakes and you can think one of your words isn't your word if you're not very good at the spatial recognition thing. So I just write them all down on my phone.
That's a good idea.
And then I'm just looking at my phone, and that way kind of, you can step away from the table a bit and allow other people to see the words better when you're coming up with your clues.
Yeah, that's not a bad tip. I like it. Because it can be pretty stressful being that code master. Like, unlike the other players at the table, you have to be alert and listening and paying attention the whole game.
Yeah, pretty much the whole game.
But if you have 10 people playing the game, that means, at any given time, there's 2 code masters.
Exactly.
So you really only need 2 people who are paying attention, who are invested the entire game.
And I always put, it's a couple, right? The husband and wife as that team.
Yeah.
I think it eases the pressure on coming up with those clues when you know that the opponent is your spouse.
Yeah, that's a good point. The other thing I've always wanted to do, and I haven't done it yet, and I have no real reason, is I want to buy 2 pairs of sunglasses at the dollar store for the code masters. I think it matches thematically, but more importantly, because you're always looking, in these kinds of games, you're always looking at the table and where the cards are laid out.
Yeah.
And no one can tell if you're looking at your team's words or the other team's words, but you're constantly looking to the left corner, to the right corner, to the bottom corner.
Sure.
And everyone else at the table is watching you.
Yep.
So they want to see where you're looking. And I always thought sunglasses should have come with the game because it blocks your vision.
Like how there's a baseball cap in Scotland Yard.
Exactly. Yes. I forgot about that. The baseball cap. That works perfectly. Who do you think's going to like this game? Who is this game for?
I think it's probably got one of the widest audiences of all the games we're talking about in this episode.
I agree.
I think once you're old enough to read, you can play this game. But even if you can't, the grown-ups around the table can tell you what the words are. And so when it comes to deciding between slug, bug, and rug, you don't need to be able to read the words on the table in order to have that conversation because people are talking about them out loud. And so in that way, it truly is the all-ages board game party.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people who like word games, I would say, would fit into this category. I would say anybody who likes deduction games, I think it still fits into that.
Yeah. It's important to note that although this is a word game, it's not a spelling game.
Yeah.
So it's not at all related to things like Scrabble or bananagrams.
Very, very true. You don't have to be able to spell it all.
Yeah.
I think someone who is into wordplay, like somebody who is thinking of words that have multiple meanings.
Yeah, like pitcher and pitcher.
Yeah, like that kind of person would really enjoy this kind of game.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I agree with what you said. I think it's a very, very wide range of people who will love and adore this game. And I think, I've had success playing this game with people who aren't gamers, people who, think of gaming as Monopoly and Risk, and I hate those games, and I don't want to ever play board games. And they will, they'll be in the kitchen, they'll be bringing drinks and and they'll see us and they'll be like, wow, so how does this work again? And then before you know it, they're sitting at the table going, can I play the next round? Can I try the Codemaster?
Yeah.
It's a miraculous game for that.
It's an incredibly popular game in the board game community, but I'm always surprised when it's not more popular.
Yes.
Like people have heard of Risk and Monopoly.
Yeah.
And some people have heard of Catan, and I often felt that this game would fit somewhere between Monopoly and Catan.
Yeah. I think it's going to get there at some point. It's relatively new. We've seen sort of Ticket to Ride and Wingspan punch through into the sort of mainstream market. And I won't be surprised if Codenames goes down in history as one of those kind of top tier mainstream sort of games, because it has that quality. It's a fantastic game. Pitch Car. Pitch Car is a car racing, flicking, dexterity party game for 2 to 8 players ages 6 and up, and it plays in about a half an hour. Pitch Car was designed by Jean Dupoel and published by Fairty in 1995.
It's race day at the Motor Speedway, and the air is filled with the smell of diesel and the sound of the roaring crowd.
I love it. I love it. Pitch Car is a flicking race game. On a player's turn, they flick their car, which is a disc, on a modular racetrack that looks similar to a slot car racing track. If players flick their disc off the track or bump another car off the track, then the discs are returned to their original starting positions.
This is the only rule in the game.
Yeah, essentially.
This is such a simple game. It's literally we are crokinolling around the track.
Yeah. Yeah, crokinole is a large flat board where you're trying to flick your disc into the center position to score points. And this is, instead of a large round arena, you have a track, a racetrack that goes in different shapes. And you set that up in the beginning however you want.
Yeah.
You could have a long straightaway or lots of curves, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you guys take turns flicking a disc. And the only other rule that some people don't play with, I have learned, and I feel like it's an important one, is when you're flicking your disc, your car can only travel 2 lengths of track with a single flick.
Oh, yeah.
I've talked to people who take that rule out right away, and that's fine. I just feel like it causes the game to have sort of a runaway leader. Like the person who's really good at keeping their car on the track is the person who's going to win.
The game is way more interesting though when the cars are
when they're close,
together, right? Just similar to Formula One. Like it's all about that tight group and trying to maneuver your vehicle around your opponent's vehicle without falling off.
Yeah. The components we should talk about, that they are wooden.
Entirely made of wood, yeah.
They're a wooden track with this sort of surfacing of, it looks like black tarmac on it.
Yeah.
And then they have sort of these red plastic rails that you put on certain parts of the track, like on turns and stuff, to kind of keep your cars from always flying off that turn,
Yeah, you don't put those rails on every piece, which is really important, but just like in certain spots.
Strategic spots, like turns and stuff like that. And there's a ton of expansions on this. Like there's ramps and, X's and
crossroads.
Yeah. There's a loop that you can do, like a
loop-to-loop, like a complete
loop-to-loop. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Which seems ridiculously impossible, but I've never played that.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you would get the disc to I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either.
To wax the boards.
It's one I would love to try, but I've never tried it.
Yeah. I like the little jumps.
Yeah.
Right? There's like little tiny jumps. I've seen pictures on BoardGameGeek.com where players have set up 2 different tracks on 2 different tables with a small space between the tracks and little jump pieces. So you have to actually jump your car
Yeah.
over the space between the tables onto the track on the other side.
It becomes like this little Evel Knievel thing in the middle. Like, it's so cool. It's
That's awesome. For our younger listeners, Evel Knievel was a stuntman in the 70s.
Yes, showing your age now, Chris. And there's like bottlenecks that you can add to your track too. So like if you want to deliberately make it harder for people to get a lead, it gets really, really short and you have to traverse all these little turns and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I saw a piece that has a curve in it, but then there's a rail like in the middle of the road. So if you're on one side of that, then it's going to take you a little bit further. Yeah, it's really interesting. There's even adapters to adapt pitch car to the other pitch car mini.
Oh, is there?
So you can actually put the sets together. So pitch car mini is the exact same game, but just slightly scaled down, to a little bit smaller for easy storage. It's cheaper, fits on your table a little bit easier.
Yeah. But they have adapters. I didn't know that. So you could buy.
Yeah. I read that on Board Game Geek that you can get a piece that'll put the two tracks together, which I imagine would make it very difficult if you were playing big pitch car on a little pitch car racing track.
Yeah, I would think so.
When my daughter discovered this game was one of the demo games at Board Game Bliss.
Okay.
We started to make quite a few more trips up there because she really liked the action, right? The racing and the flicking, right?
Yeah. Really
appealed to her. She wanted to have rails on every single curve.
Really?
Which was fun. I said, no, we don't play it like that. I also remember a time when we all went to Board Game Cafe's grand opening, West End of Toronto, and we were all there and they had pitch car set up, like already ready to go on one of the tables. And so we were able to bang off a game really quickly. Chris Chung was there, the board game designer. I got to play with him, which was super fun. I think this game appeals to everybody. It is young and old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very intuitive mechanism. We're just flicking and racing.
Yeah.
And you see it set up there and you see those opponents, it draws you over. You must flick it.
Yes, it's true. I've played it with all ages.
Nice.
I've played it with my nephew, who is 5 and loved it.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a good one. It appeals to everybody. It's super simple. The idea of, you just take your finger and you push this disc, that's the rule. There you go. You're done.
Yeah,
We've learned the explanation.
Go.
And invariably when you play it, it's like, okay, can we play again? Now, generally one of the rules that we do is instead of doing like 2 laps or 3 laps, we just do 1 lap. And then do you want to play again? Okay, let's set it up. Do you want to change the track? Okay.
Yes.
And sometimes actually changing the track is 1/3 of the fun. It's like, let's set it up.
God, yes.
Just like when you were a kid playing with those,
slot cars,
matchbox cars. Yeah. You would be like, oh God, I gotta make this track do this and it's got to do that. And then, oh, it's not long enough. We got to try this. It's fun.
Exactly. So you own pitch car, right, Chris?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have pitch car or pitch car mini?
I have pitch car mini. I thought it would be better fitting on my table. And I've got a few of the expansions, different ones that you can do, the ramp and the long stretch and the bottlenecks and stuff. It's an investment game. Like it's not something that's cheap because the components are extremely well made. They're made out of wood. And I think at the time it was, well over 100, probably close to $150.
Wow.
For the base game and a couple of expansions.
Yeah.
And, over the years I've added a couple things here and there, but it's one of those games that if you're in the right mood and you have the right group, that it's going to be a huge hit.
Yeah. It's the perfect game to have sort of set up before anybody shows up.
Yeah.
Because if you're waiting for people to come, you can still flick and play around on the track, warm up, so to speak, until everybody's there. Once everybody's there, you can bang off a quick game, and then it's just a quick put away.
Yeah.
Setting it up takes longer than putting it back in the box.
Definitely, yes.
When you chose Pitch Car Mini, at any point did you regret going with the Mini and wish you had the bigger one?
No, I would say definitely not. I mean, you want to get, I think when you're buying pitch car, whether it's pitch car or pitch car mini, you want to get enough expansions that give you enough, sort of variability on how you can set up the tracks.
Right.
But even the base game, I mean, they come with sort of this formula of how you can set up like, I don't know, 30 different tracks or 20 different tracks or something like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of variability even just with the base game. Yeah, I mean, once you've got an expansion or two that lets you add some variety, I think that's all you really need. And there's no difference really for me. I've played both versions. And the only reason I chose the mini was it's a tiny bit cheaper and, it'll fit on my table in a much more reasonable way. Because it is a big game. I mean, it's one of those, oh, geez, I wish we had one of those massive, boardroom tables to play if you're playing the pitch car base game, the main game. But yeah, no, I love it. And some of, the more fun memories that I have gaming with my family is from pitch car mini. So yeah, absolutely love it.
Timebomb. Timebomb is a secret agents and spies, team-based, bomb-defusing, social deduction party game for 4 to 8 players, ages 10 and up, that plays in about 30 minutes. Timebomb was designed by Yusuke Sato and published by Yellow in France in 2016. There is a bomb in the Tower of London. You and your team are tasked with defusing it. The problem is, not everybody around the table is on your team. With precious little time on the clock, you have to work on defusing the bomb and try to figure out who your teammates are as you go. Timebomb is a light social deduction game that has been reprinted and rethemed several times. The version we're talking about today was published in France with the title Timebomb Moriarty vs. Sherlock. The Moriarty vs. Sherlock theme and artwork ran into some copyright issues, making it only available outside of North America. It has been re-implemented into a Sherlock-free version called Timebomb Evolution, as well as Don't Mess with Cthulhu and Don't Mess with Cthulhu Deluxe. Timebomb is mostly a deck of cards that contain 3 different kinds of cards. There are live wires, there's dead wires, and there's one card that is the bomb. The bomb card is the picture of the Tower of London mid-explosion.
Okay.
The deck is prepared so that there are the same number of live wires as players. These cards are added with the bomb card to a deck of dead wire cards. Then the deck is shuffled up and every player is given 5, which they look at and then shuffle in their hands and place face down on the table without looking at them. This way they know which cards they have, but they don't know where they are. Once all the players have done this, the first player will decide which wire to cut, or rather, which of these cards that are face down on the table that they will flip over. So in a 5-player game, there will be 25 cards face down on the table. 3 of the players on the table are the good guys, and 2 will be the bad guys. The good guys are trying to find and flip over the 5 live wire cards while avoiding the bomb. At the beginning of the game, everybody's trying to pretend to be a good guy, even if they're not. So this might look like this.
I have 2 live wires.
I have 1 live wire.
I have no live wires.
I have 1 live wire and the bomb.
I have 1 live wire.
I have no live wires. So Chris says he has 2 live wires and no bomb, and I can be fairly certain that he doesn't have the bomb because Sherry said that she has the bomb. So I can confidently pick one of Chris's cards at random to flip over. I have a 2 out of 5 chance I'm going to find one of these live wires. This randomness and uncertainty works well to hide the terrorists at the table. If at any time the player turns over the bomb card, the game is immediately over and the bad guys win. Whoever's wire gets cut then becomes the first player, and they get to decide which wire to cut next. So I turn over one of Chris's cards, and it's a dud, and then Chris will grab the wire cutters and get to decide which card to turn over next. After we have cut the same number of wires as players, so in a 5-player game, after 5 wires have been cut, regardless if they're live or duds, all the cards are then collected, reshuffled, and redistributed so that everybody has 4 each, and we begin a new round. The good guys are only successful if they find all the live wires before the 5 rounds are over.
This would be an example of the kind of game that I'm horrible at. I feel like I always do something in the game that everyone goes, oh, why would he do that? He would only do that if he was the bad guy.
Oh, no.
And I'd be like, wait a minute. I'm not the bad guy. I've done something wrong. Why are they all saying you'd only do that if I was the bad guy? I always make this fundamental...
That can be true of a lot of social deduction games, but I find that this one is the one that holds up best to that kind of behavior. It is not fragile. We can't be broken by somebody not playing correctly. Like, it's very forgiving in that way. In fact, if a player has been found out to be a bad guy and you know, oh, Chris is obviously a terrorist, we can't believe anything he has to say. Well, you could still get live wires that need to be cut. And when we cut your wires, we're handing the clippers over to you and you're going to be able to cut the next wire.
Right.
And so you could then easily try to go for the bomb, and you could, if you have wires in your hand, you could lie and tell us you don't. Or if you do have wires in your hand, you could tell us the truth and say that you do have wires, provoking us to cut your cards.
Right.
I mean, there's so many ways to play it, even if you are exposed. That bluffing, double bluffing, it works so well.
And I think it's because their cards are reshuffled in between, right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems
After
to be...
every round, they get redistributed. So the bomb can go to a new player every turn, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the game, you want to tell everybody, oh, I've got the bomb, right? Don't turn every of my cards. But towards the end of the game, when there's only 3 cards or maybe even 2 cards in front of you, you want to keep the location of the bomb secret. Because if a bad guy ever gets the clippers, they're going to try to blow us all up.
Right. Right. That makes sense. See, that's the kind of thing I always forget. And when we're playing and I've got 2 cards in front of me, I'll be like, well, I have the bomb. Oh, wait, I shouldn't have said that? Oh, okay. Sometimes this is the fun memory of the game, right? Is there's always this moment where Chris screws up the social deduction part of the game. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that? Oh, yeah. Remember when I totally made that mistake? Yeah.
That's hilarious. The rounds are really tight. The game can be over quite quickly, and then you just gather up all the cards and shuffle them and play again. It's pretty forgiving that way. It is my favorite social deduction game because it is so easy and new players can just jump right in. And it doesn't matter if that guy doesn't know what they're doing and screws something up. It's not that big a deal. The game will continue going on. It just changes the dynamic a little bit. And it makes it interesting when those mistakes happen, I find.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, my experience is those are usually the funniest memories. At my expense, people will bring them up years later. Remember that time you said you were a werewolf?
What's interesting is the bad guys don't know who their teammates are. In a lot of social deduction games, in Werewolf, in Avalon, there'll be a phase where everybody closes their eyes and then, you put your thumb up or and so everybody knows who their teammates are. In this game, you don't. You're only playing with yourself. And you might find some sneaky behavior, like if somebody says they have the bomb, but you have the bomb, then you know that they're lying and so that they're on your team. But they don't know that you have the bomb and that you know that they're lying. And so, right. They don't know that they're on your team. And because it's so quick, you can just bang off a bunch of games of this in a row and experience all those different variations quite quickly.
Very cool.
Like we talked earlier, this game has been rethemed and reprinted a bunch of different times. And we're talking about this version because it's got the best aesthetic. It's in a small package box, the same as like Coup or Anomia or Werewolf. It's in the small little package.
Yeah.
And the art is great. It's got this steampunk sort of cartoony art. All the role cards have got characters on them, which are pretty cool. The rules are in French, of course, but you can just download the English instructions. But once you know what the rules are, you don't really need to reference them. And the whole game isn't language dependent.
Right.
So that's Timebomb. And like I said, it's one of my favorite social deduction games of all time. And it's great for up to 8 players. We're going to get back to the show after a brief message. This next ad is for Chris's own company, Geeky Goodies. If you'd like to hear what an ad for your game, product, or website might sound like, drop us a line at escapeintoboardgames@gmail.com. When we escape into board games, we're always wearing our Geeky Goodies t-shirts.
They are great conversation starters for gamers and non-gamers.
But did you know that they also sell drink coasters, socks, mouse pads, cupcake toppers, and so much more?
All things board games.
All things geeky.
Visit geekygoodies.com and use coupon code ESCAPE for a 10% discount off your purchase. Imagine is a visual charades, acting, puzzle, party game for 3 to 8 players ages 12 and up that plays in under a half an hour. Imagine was designed by Shingo Fuita, Shotaro Nakashima, Motoyuki Oki, and Hiromi Motoyuki Oki, and published in North America by GameRight in 2015. Imagine is a visual charades game where players use transparent cards that have shapes, images, and symbols on them to communicate an enigma code word or phrase to other players. The clear, transparent cards could have shapes like a line, a triangle, a spiral, or they could have a skull, a star, a cloud, or have an image of a person dancing, a bicycle, or a car. The Enigma cards, where the clues come from, have 8 different clues, each with its own category to choose from. Things like animals, places, objects, sports and leisure, movies, myths and legends, or TV shows. On your turn, you grab an Enigma card from the deck and choose one of the 8 clues to perform for the rest of the group. You announce the category, for example, bad luck, and then you start to animate your clue using the transparent cards around the table.
So I pick up the car and I'm pushing it along the table, and then I take a circle off the board and I put it on the table, and then I kind of shake the car a little bit, and then I replace the circle with a semicircle.
Right.
And then I get the man and I put him next to the car, and he's sort of jumping up and down a little bit. And then I get the clock and I put that next to it.
Right.
Anybody?
That's good. I like that. So once someone at the table has guessed at the correct answer, in this case, it was getting a flat tire.
Yeah.
Both you and the player that guessed correctly get 1 victory point each. Then play proceeds to the next player. Once each player has performed 2 different clues, the player with the most victory points is the winner. The thing with Imagine is there's so many different ways to play it. You can literally just arrange the cards in a way that tells the story of the word or the phrase that you're trying to give the clue about. Or you can stack them because they're transparent and cover up parts of the cards underneath.
Yeah.
And create a new image because you've stacked several images together.
Yeah.
You can hold them upright and move them around and, make the cards dance. You can stack them, like on the table so that they're sort of leaning against each other in a sort of 3D way that's, makes the images kind of come to life a little bit. There's so many different, there's basically no limits to what you can do with the cards to tell your clue. The only limit is you can't use your mouth. You can't use words or sounds.
You can't use sound effects or Everybody likes charades.
Well,
right? Like, no, I mean, apart from the getting up and dancing around, I mean, I understand some people don't like to perform charades, but I mean, you just sit there and watch somebody make a fool of themselves and guess, right? It's so easy, right?
I would agree. I think it's a pretty harmless game that is approachable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I have met some friends who really don't like charades and will leave the room if someone starts playing it in a party.
I mean, if you invited me over to play games and then suggested charades, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yes.
But I think if you try to say, hey, let's play a game, everybody, I think you're going to get everybody on board if it's something they can all agree to.
Yeah, it's an easy game to teach. This game is a lot like charades, but instead of standing up there, you're using cards. You're creating images with these transparent cards, and look at all the cool things you can do with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that this new spin, it keeps it fresh, right? It makes it fresh.
It totally does, yeah. It's super duper easy to teach. It takes seconds to teach, and then we're all playing right away. Like
exactly, yeah.
In terms of setup, the cards are set up on the table.
Yeah.
So you just kind of there's no deck, there's no laying them out in order. You just sort of spill them out on the
spread them all over the place. Start pulling them in. Oh, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab that.
Yeah. The only way that you're setting up is, you want to be able to see as many of the cards as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And players just watch. They just sit there and they make guesses. If you have players that are shy, they can totally just watch and guess. They don't have to be a clue giver if they don't want to.
Doesn't impact the game at all if you want to skip somebody's turn.
Exactly. And that can be a problem with charades. It's like, I don't want to do that. It seems hard. Okay, fine. You don't have to. And the thing that really comes through in this game is creativity. Like, everyone I've played with has come up with some really creative ways to give their clues. And they're really just kind of simple shapes. One might be like a half of a triangle or some lines or something that looks like a mop but isn't,
Yeah.
And then you grab the card and you'll sort of make it bounce up and down and it becomes sort of like a puppet on this stage. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a person and they're walking. Oh, where are they going? Oh, they're going to work. Okay.
Yeah.
What do they do? Oh, wait a minute.
Did they just get splashed by that car that passed them by?
Yeah. Okay. And then all of a sudden we've told this big long story. What could the clue be? It's amazing.
And everybody just shouting out stuff and making their guesses. Yeah.
And you can play with absolutely any age. Words are the ability to read is not important.
Exactly.
Because you can always take, the younger kids off to the side, whisper the clue in their ear and you don't play that round,
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone of every age does really, really well. Your daughter loves this game.
Yeah, it's a hit. She likes these kinds of communication games where it's the creativity, like you're saying. She likes the drawing games and illustrations or draw some people and that kind of thing. But this has got a similar quality too, where you can be very creative with it. And there's over 60 clear cards. Like it's a big deck of clear cards with all sorts of different images on them. With that, like you're saying, that little red splotch looks like a flame. Like if you just hold it up, it kind of looks like a fire. And so you put it on the end of a stick. Well, now it's a torch. That's cool. You put it on somebody's head. It's crazy hairdo. And now, right? And they're like, oh, you put it behind a rocket. And now the rocket's, just like has all these different ways you can use one image. Yeah. Turn it upside down and it's now something else. That bowl is now a big ball gown dress because it's upside down on that person's silhouette.
Yeah. Or it's an eyeball in the next person's clue.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. It's just, it's quite brilliant the way. And to see people taking each other's ideas and using them slightly different in their own clues, like just, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I really love the way that guy drew a bicycle with these cards. Now I can do something similar and use the circle.
You see those three cards go together and you go, oh, well, that was the bicycle of 2 turns ago. Is that a bicycle now? And you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to build on this.
I can use that card that he used for the wheels on a truck now. And everyone will understand that it's a truck rather than, this sort of, abstract half circles or whatever. It's like, oh, we knew it was a bicycle before. Now we know it's a truck. Yeah. I would say if you're the clue giver, there's always one card you're looking for. Like, why isn't there one with a lion on it?
Yeah.
But that's just our natural desire to make things a little easier for ourselves, I think.
Maybe, yeah. And then you're like, somebody will put their thumb over top of like, this, I don't want this part in. I'll just put my thumb over that. And just like, you can see this is a stick. Kind of looks like a baseball bat if I hold it like this. But if I remove my thumb, then this little triangle
looks like a hook.
Make it look like a hook or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's many silhouettes of people. There's one of them sitting, maybe somebody slipping, then there's another one standing, and then the dancing one. And so you can put one on the table and then pick it up and swap it out with another one, and then swap it out again, and then swap it out again, and keep going back A, B, as if that person's moving. Oh, they're doing a little, are they slipping on a banana peel? What is that? What's happening there? You got like very slow cell animation on the table as everybody sort of watches what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and the clues are like, oh, he's running, he's walking. Okay, oh, he fell. What did he fall on? That looks like a banana peel. Did he fall on a banana peel?
When I Dream,
When I Dream is a real-time, limited communication, storytelling, deduction party game for 4 to 10 players ages 8 and up that plays in about 40 minutes.
When I Dream was designed by Chris Darsaklis and published by Repos Productions in 2016.
Night has fallen and you fall asleep peacefully. It's the perfect occasion for dream spirits to visit you and influence your dream for better or worse. Listen to the voices of the fairies, but beware of the boogeyman and the sandman. At the break of dawn, will you remember your dream?
Full disclosure, I took this directly from the rule book.
That part we just read?
Yep. Usually we like to write this little theme part ourselves, but in this case, the rulebook had us covered, and
it works.
Yeah, it's really well done, so I thought I would include that.
Yeah, it encapsulates exactly what the game is all about and what you're trying to do, and sets up the theme very well.
They did not skimp on the production quality for this game, and the rulebook is no exception.
True.
There's beautiful artwork and illustrations throughout.
Yeah. Each player will take a turn being the dreamer. They will put on a blindfold and a timer is turned over, and then in turn, all players around the table will give one-word clues directing the dreamer to a single clue that is face up in the middle of the table.
Broomstick.
Apple.
Cauldron.
Then the dreamer might guess the word witch. Then that clue card is set aside and another clue comes up, and again we go around the table with one-word clues from each player. Play goes on like this until the timer runs out.
The problem is, not every player around the table is trying to help you guess the correct word. There are hidden roles in this game, and each role has a different objective. Fairies are trying to help you guess the correct word. You can trust fairies. The boogeymen are trying to get you to guess incorrectly. Don't trust the boogeymen. And the Sandman scores points based on how closely the numbers are of correct answers versus incorrect answers.
So one of the things about the game is everyone's kind of incentivized to get as many words to the dreamer as possible.
Yes.
Because that just means more points for themselves as well as for the dreamer.
Yeah.
The question is, do they want the dreamer to get the cards right or wrong? So everyone's trying to get the person to answer as quickly as possible. So the game moves kind of fast, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, you only go through 3 or 4 different cards before the timer's up. But sometimes you'll do 8 or 10 or 12 cards and it's like, wow, that person guessed a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really up to the dreamer to decide when they've had enough clues of when they think they can guess it, right? Like you could say cauldron and I could say witch. Or I could wait for 2 or 3 more clues before I say which.
Right.
Being the fairy is relatively easier, I would say.
Yeah.
You're just trying to help the dreamer get the word. And you have a bit of time pressure because you want to, the words get blurted out in order around the table and you want to get your clues out there. And sometimes...
Yeah, you got 5 seconds to say something.
Yeah, and sometimes someone will say your clue just before you did, and you're like, oh no, what am I going to say now?
Yes.
But you can always pass, and that's totally fine as well.
Yeah.
The boogeyman is the guy who is trying to throw you off. And I find that one's actually the harder of all the different roles.
Easily the hardest role.
Because if everyone's saying witch, cauldron, broomstick, Halloween, and then the boogeyman comes up and he says refrigerator. Yes. All of a sudden, the dreamer knows.
Oh, I can't trust him. I can't trust that person. Yeah.
Anything he says for the rest of this is irrelevant. He's not telling the truth.
Yes. You have to pick that word that sounds like it fits.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody said apple and somebody said broom. So I'm going to say spice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's right. Or I'm going to say, kitchen or something like that. Right. And that fits. There's a broom. You put the broom in the kitchen. And you have apples in the kitchen. That works. But it's really hard to find those clues that will do that influence the dreamer without giving yourself away.
Yeah. But again, there's always the option that you can pass. If you can't think of a word fast enough, you pass. And it'll come back around to you usually.
Yeah.
The Sandman. The Sandman's role is kind of neat to play. I really enjoy playing the Sandman because sometimes you're like, I really want to help the dreamer, and you're like giving good clues. And then other times you're playing sort of this helper to the boogeyman that is sort of these halfway good clues.
Yes. Yeah.
And what ends up happening is the dreamer is sitting there listening to words go around the table as different clues are going out. And they're trying to guess what the word is and who is the boogeyman and who is the Sandman and who they can trust and who they can't trust.
Yeah.
That is really difficult in some situations, especially if people are giving, really good clues. I love this game. This is one of my newest obsessions. I can't play it enough right now. Because it does play 4 to 8 players. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it keeps everyone engaged.
Yep.
Because it's very fast and you have to think on your feet and you think ahead a little bit, but then someone uses your card or your clue and you have to. Yeah, it's very, very good.
It's probably the heaviest game of this episode.
Yeah, I think you're right.
In that it demands a lot from its players, but it's not too demanding. It's still in the party game category, I think. It's still a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
At the end of the round, the dreamer will score 1 point for each dream card that is guessed correctly. And they'll also score 2 extra points if they can mention all the dream cards that they guessed correctly. So this is the storytelling element where it comes in, where before the dreamer takes their blindfold off, they have to recall the dream that they had.
Yeah.
And tell a story about a dream involving all the clues that they guessed. Yeah. And of course, they don't know which ones they got right and which ones they didn't get right. So they're trying to remember every single clue.
Yeah.
And they only get those 2 points if they remember all the clues that are in the correct pile. And I find this part is so difficult. Going in, I need to remember these answers. You've got the blindfold on. All you have to do is guess and remember.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the guessing pushes the remembering right out of my brain. I can never remember. I've been like, you get 3-4 cards in, and then I forgot the second one easily.
It's an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah.
I don't know how long the timer is. Maybe 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. I don't know.
Yeah.
And in that time, as the dreamer, I might be saying 5, 6, 7 words.
Yeah.
And I can't remember all 6, 7 words that I said. I can't remember half of them.
That's ridiculous. Why not? There's 7 words. It should be easy.
Yeah. I can tell you the words that were given to me as clues. Like I will remember broomstick, cauldron, brew.
What was the answer?
What was the answer? Was it? I don't know. Yeah. And the other point of this game is there's a little bit of creativity in this. Is the dreamer usually is asked to tell the story of their dreams. So, I was walking along in a field and all of a sudden a witch flew by overhead and she poured some water on my head, like that kind of thing. And then slowly but surely you're revealing the ones.
Yeah. It sort of feels like a dream because the story is so ridiculous, but also you have such a difficult time remembering it, just like a dream. You've woken up now and you're like, what happened in my dream again?
I will never understand how that works because it is so hard to remember. Like even games where I've said 3 words. I can remember 3 words that I spoke. I've only said 3 words the whole time. Everyone else was talking. All I got to do is remember the 3 things that I said, and that's it. And sure enough, as soon as that timer's done, before I take my blindfold off, I might be able to remember one, the last one that I said. It's incredible. I love this game. We were at Board Game Bliss, and you found it on their used game shelf.
It was on their consignment shelf, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing about it, and so I picked it up, and I was going to buy it for sure.
Yeah.
But our mutual friend Howard.
Howard, was it?
Was there.
Oh, okay.
And he had played it before.
Okay.
And while it's already under my arm, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's a great game. It's got this and this and this." And you started to talk about it, and your eyes just lit up. You were like, "I must own." You were so mad that I had picked it up first.
It sounded amazing.
It was between prints. It took you months to find a copy.
It took forever, yeah. And we played it that day. Like we pulled it out and we played it at the table.
Yeah.
Howard taught it to us, and I was completely and utterly enamored.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't call this my favorite game, but it's definitely my top 2 or 3 party games.
Okay.
And right now I'm at this point where I can't play it enough. Like I want to play it.
Yeah.
I want to play it 3 or 4 times every time I've got 4 or more players together.
Nice.
I think it's better with 5 or 6, 7, 8 players than it is with 4.
Because at 4 players or 5 players, you don't have enough fairies around the table to really tell, what the correct answer might be.
Yeah. I think it works, but I think 5 or 6 is probably the sweet spot. But it works great with 7 and 8 as well.
Yeah. The components are really great. All the cards are these oversized sort of Dixit style cards, the big massive cards.
Yeah.
And the deck fits in a plastic bed, like it's like a sleeping bed. Like it just slides into it. So all the cards are being held into place. And then the foot of the bed kind of covers up the bottom of the card. So each card has 2 words on it.
Yeah.
And then there's art, which only benefits the people who aren't wearing a blindfold, will depict an image with both of those words. Now, it could just as easily have been a Codenames sized card.
With just a word on it.
Yeah. And then you could have just as easily have flipped that card around. But no, it's this big, massive thing with beautiful art. They've hired dozens of artists to illustrate these cards, and they all look like trippy, dreamy, sort of imagination paintings.
And because each card has 2 different words on it, it gives you double the replayability, but also it creates that dreamlike quality in the art because the art combines these 2 completely different, unrelated words into one picture. That's how dreams are. Dreams are these wonky things that don't make much sense, and one thing turns into another thing automatically. And I find that if it was just words on the card, the game wouldn't work nearly as well because sometimes as the clue givers, you can look at the card and that can help sort of spark the creativity in your mind of what you want to say, regardless of what role you're playing in this game.
Yeah, exactly. On the witch card is Panda. And so you have a picture of a witch with the broomstick and the hat and everything, but she's riding a panda in like what looks like a flooded field. And it's just like there's some clouds there and everything. And it's just like, that's so weird. Or shampoo and branch are on the same card. And so you have a tree that looks like it has fingers. Shampooing something.
Suds.
It's just completely unnecessary. This is not necessary for the game to function.
No.
But it adds this quality that would be sorely missed if it wasn't there.
Just talking about the game just reminds me of how much I love it and every fun memory I have of playing it. And I think I'm smiling through the whole game every single time. I love it.
So, of course, your all-ages board game party does not need to be limited to these 5 games. There are plenty of other games out there that are appropriate for this kind of thing.
And we've talked about some of them on other episodes.
That's right. Concept and Wavelength are great for all-ages parties.
And we talked about those in our Games with Unique Mechanisms episode.
That's right, yeah.
Suro and Blank Slate, both of those games work in this category.
Big crowd pleasers, yeah. From our Fantastic Fillers and Fantastic Fillers finale episodes. Legolas and Insider are family favorites that I have had a lot of success with large groups.
And we talk about those 2 in our 5 Fun Games for Families episode. And Word on the Street, I think that game fits really well in this category because
really does.
You can play that with a huge number of people as long as they can see what's going on the table.
Yeah, and the heckling between teams is terrific. It reminds me of the Codenames again. You can listen to us talk about Word on the Street in our Several Spelling Games That Supersede Scrabble episode. Have you played any of the games that we've talked about today? What are some of your favorite games to play at an all-ages board game party? Drop us a line at escapeintoboardgames@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to the Escape Into Board Games podcast. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Escape Into Board Games. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps more people discover Escape Into Board Games, and you can get an Escape Into Board Games t-shirt at geekygoodies.com/escapeintoboardgames. Or you can help us fuel the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/escapeintoBGS.
This episode is produced by Matt McKenzie and Chris Cormier. Sound editing by Matt McKenzie. Production assistance by Sherry Cormier. Music by John Yasut and Daniel Carlton. See you at the next escape.